All right, we got everything we need. All right, Asian squat. Let's talk about doing the deep Asian squat. You don't think I need this? I thought it would make it. Okay, never mind. All right, today we're going to be talking about the deep squat, the primal squat, the Hindu squat, the Asian squat, the Slav squat, the Russian squat, the minor squat, the kimchi squat. Whatever words you want to use to describe this squat are fine by me, I don't care. But what I do care about is this insidious belief that you might hold, this belief that you are too old to do the deep Asian squat. This might have gotten into your head from a number of sources that we'll talk about today, and it's going to stop you from making any progress. So today we're going to go over the sources of this belief, and we're going to go over a couple inspiring stories that will help you break this belief and help you make progress on getting into the deep Asian squat. And one of the stories has to do with a woman who made a bet. An 80-year-old woman made a bet that I didn't even know was happening, and the result is I got a check for $100. So we're going to talk about the details of that story and everything else. Let's get ready to think right, move right, and feel right. First of all, here's the cashier's check for $100, and here is the paper that it came in, and look at how awesome that pattern is. This is probably one of the most interesting things I've ever received from a stranger/fan. And so Gail C, you know who you are, you know where you are. Thank you very much for sending this. We're gonna talk about what you wrote me in a second here. So first, let's talk about the sources of the belief that you are too old to get down into a deep squat. So number one, you might have gotten the belief that you're too old to be able to do a deep squat from doctors and other health professionals. Because in the West, in societies where you are sitting in chairs all the time, you very rarely see people in this position, and you very rarely see older adults able to achieve this position. Thus, it seems extreme, it seems abnormal to be able to get in this position. People don't see it happen, so they assume it's actually an extremely difficult thing to achieve. But this would be like fish telling humans, you should just stay in the water. Keep your head underwater. If you put your head out of the water too long, you're gonna die. Also, consider that many doctors and health professionals don't want to subject themselves to unnecessary liability risks, because then their insurance premiums go up and they really don't want to have to deal with a lawsuit. The idea is to protect themselves and you from injury by telling you not to do anything that could possibly hurt you. And so they will often err on the side of caution, knowing that most older adults, for whatever reason, cannot get down into a deep squat. The safest thing they can do is just tell you, hey, don't even bother trying, because all you're going to do is hurt yourself on that path. And frankly, that's not an unreasonable belief. Many people, myself included, will often charge headlong into certain physical challenges like total morons and hurt themselves. So it is in fact safer for health professionals to often tell you, hey, just don't bother trying, you're just going to hurt yourself. And finally, medical professionals absolutely do not get any sort of education and training into improving your movement mechanics and your ability to get into something like the deep squat. So the idea that you can actually get an older person strong enough and flexible enough to get down into a deep squat is borderline heresy for most medical professionals, because they just haven't been exposed to that kind of knowledge. And to be clear, I'm not trying to malign medical and other health professionals here. I'm just trying to make sure you understand the context in which they operate and what education they receive that shapes their perspective. And if you've ever told a friend or family member that you want to try to do a deep Asian squat, you might have immediately received strong pushback or a, yeah, right, you're not Asian. Essentially, what you're getting from your friends and family is just a slight variation on what you got from the health professionals. This is all best summed up by 3 letters that I like to call or the physically feeble fallacy. The physically feeble fallacy is when someone who can't help you and can't think of a way how to help you just tells you that there's no point in trying to fix the problem. Many times, but not always, this person probably already has the same problem you have, and it also makes them feel better to know that they're better off and you're better off just being miserable, being unable to solve the problem. After all, if there is actually a solution to the problem, then the only reason the problem still exists is because you haven't done the work to fix the problem, which puts the responsibility on yourself. So it's way, way easier to just say, well, no, there's no way to solve this problem. So if you're a grown-ass adult, are you already too old and hopeless to be able to do a deep Asian squat? Let me share 3 quick stories with you to help you form a more educated opinion, and I can almost guarantee that one of the stories I'm going to share with you is from somebody who is much older than you are. Just look at this image. It is so creepy cool. And I am going to read this letter to you. Story number 1 is from my personal life. In my 20s, my hips, my knees, my everything got so feeble and stiff that I was unable to get down into a squat. It was difficult for me to even touch my toes for a while, which, if you've seen my other videos, is probably kind of unbelievable. My whole body was just like rickety and sore, and I could not get down. I could not do a lot of normal things. I'm now in my 40s and I'm able to do more than I was able to do than when I was a teenager, which is kind of crazy and unbelievable. But being in your 40s, that's not quite over the hill, is it? Is it? So let me share a second story. And before we get to that second story, I want to point out down below there are links to my Healthy Hips program, the Asian Squat program, both of which will help you free your hips so that you can do the deep Asian squat. You can also find more of my programs at uprighthealth.com/DIY. When you've got some free time after this video, be sure to head over there and check it out. All right, let's go to story number 2. Story number 2 involves zooming out and looking around the world at countries where chairs are not quite as common. If you look at places like India or China even, or Vietnam, you'll notice that people are able to squat down deep for very long periods for their entire lives because that's what they need to do on a daily basis. If you go to Vietnam, which I highly recommend at some point in your life if you can, you'll notice that people are all sitting, if they're sitting, on very short stools. Now imagine an alternate life where everywhere you went, the only thing you could sit in was a very short stool. Do you think you would lose the ability to sit down to a short stool? Or do you think that might shape your body and train your body to be able to get into this position and maintain the ability to get into this position? That's why in societies where they don't have Western style toilets, where they're able to just drop down and poop into holes, they maintain the ability to drop down into a squat because without a Western style toilet, you have to actually poo in this position unless you want to poo all the way down your leg. Let's just pause there a second so you can visualize that. And since you now might be very rationally thinking, well, I'm not Asian, so all these Asian examples don't really apply to me, we're going to read this letter from somebody who's definitely not Asian. So I'm not going to give away all the information here for privacy's sake, but this woman's name is Gail. The last name starts with a C. She lives in the South, very much the South of the United States, and there's no way this last name is an Asian last name. So I'm assuming that this is a Caucasian person based on that last name, and this lady wrote me one of the best letters I've received all year, and I'm going to read it to you right now. Hi Matt, I said if I got in a squat, I'd send you some money. I wish I could send more, but I live on Social Security. I never thought I'd do it, but because of you, it's happened. It's a wonderful feeling to be able to hang out that way. Thanks to ATM, which sidebar ATM means always think muscles. You're a wonderful coach, Matt. Thank you very much, Gail. There's a little postscript too, and she says, get this check cashed right away. Here's the $100 check that Gail sent to me. I put it aside and forgot while I found your address. I don't have PayPal. And here's the best part of the letter, the last 2 words in the postscript. I'm 80. And now I have 2 questions for you. Given the stories that you've just heard, including the one you heard from Gail, do you now believe that you actually might be able to do the deep Asian squat eventually? If so, drop a comment down below and say, I can do it. The second question is, what do you think I should do with this check from Gail? I've already discussed this with my wife and a couple friends, and I'm pretty sure I should not cash this check, but is there more that I should do to follow up on this amazing story and this woman's incredible generosity? Drop your ideas in the comment section down below. And if you want more videos on the deep Asian squat, I will link a playlist at the end of this video and in the description box. And you should also check out my DIY programs that are down below, like the Healthy Hips program and the Asian squat program. You can also find them at uprighthealth.com/DIY. If you found this helpful for your mind and your body, hit the like button, subscribe, and as always, I hope you remember that pain sucks. Life shouldn't.